shelter if people should need it. But again, for those of you just jumping on, because I know everybody's coming in staggered, the official word at this juncture is that
welcome. This is Candid News. I'm Troy Torres here at the bunker of the Office of Civil Defense, Guam Homeland Security, where momentarily the National Weather Service officials will be starting a heavy weather briefing to inform the public what is the latest with now Tropical Depression 15W, upgraded just this afternoon by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. Landon Idlet, the chief meteorologist from the National Weather Service, said that he will be providing more information about this. Over the past couple of days, things have moved rather swiftly with Invest 98W, that's what Tropical Depression 15W was upgraded from, was persisting near Pohnpei in the Federated States of Micronesia with a track northwestward, that is toward the area of the Mariana Islands. Yesterday, Landon Idlet said that a couple of degrees north, a couple of degrees south could make the difference between direct hits to either Guam, Rota, Tinian, or Saipan, or go in between them, or go just south of Guam or just north of Saipan. And so it is rather early. We're looking at the likelihood of a significant tropical cyclone hitting the Mariana Islands, passing through or over any one of our islands, or just missing us altogether sometime between Tuesday and Wednesday. The latest from JTWC as of this afternoon was it was upgraded to Tropical Depression 15W. It was located near 9.8 degrees north latitude, 154.5 east longitude. I might be mixing those two up. Approximately 610 nautical miles east-southeast of Andersen Air Force Base, and had tracked west-northwestward at 11 knots over the past 6 hours. Maximum sustained surface winds were estimated at 25 knots, gusting to 35 knots. Now, before they call us into the Emergency Operations Center so that we can show you the live briefing, let me, we got some information from the Governor's Office on Guam about the government of Guam's readiness in the event of the passage of a storm over Guam. And so the first question we asked, is the Emergency Operations Center or the Joint Information Center being totally or partially stood up in preparation for the storm? The answer, not at this time, but we are prepared to activate once warranted. So the question, is a plan in place to pre-position resources at staging sites throughout the island? The answer, yes. Department of Public Works has pre-positioned equipment in problematic flood areas island-wide and will continue to provide support, if available, as additional requests come in. To the question, is the legal team preparing to draft template letters for the various requests that may need to be made to the federal government? The answer, yes. Governor Lulian Guerrero is prepared to make the various requests for support from our federal partners. Additionally, FEMA officials responding to Typhoon Mawar are still on the island and ready to provide support, with additional on the way. To the question, are there any plans for shelters? What are those plans? The answer from Crystal Pacos and Augustine was GDOE has a shelter plan for Tier 1 shelters, with 15 identified schools to be used based on the need, availability, etc. Mayor's Council of Guam have identified Tier 2 shelters. And to the question, will there be a quick collection over the next few days of the debris gathered in stage sites and all that junk that remain on the curbs from the last collection drive? The answer, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers will continue to operate with residential debris removal for as long as it is safe to do so. The community is advised to stay up to date with the latest information through the weekend in the event there is a need to remove debris staged in the rights of way. However, residents are encouraged to secure loose debris around their homes, as well as any items that could become airborne in heavy winds. So according to information coming from the governor's office appears to be prepared on how to handle the aftermath of a storm, at least as much as the government of Guam can be prepared for something that Mother Nature brings our way. Now, Eric, are we going to go on a break now while we walk into the Emergency Operations Center? So we're going to go on a little bit of a break as we just venture down to the EOC, just a few clicks away, and we'll be right back. And hopefully by that time, the heavy weather briefing will be available. Stick with us. So we're still waiting to be brought into the Emergency Operations Center. I apologize for any delay in this. I know it's past 3 p.m., but Gov Guam and how it goes. And so while we're waiting, I'll give you some information that came out of the National Weather Service. This was earlier today, so there likely will be far more information, or maybe even some of this information will change according to this 3 p.m. briefing that's supposed to start momentarily. But what the National Weather Service did put out at 10:24 a.m. today, that is in our time frame here in the Mariana Islands, is that now what is known as Tropical Depression 15W likely will pass through the Marianas Tuesday night or Wednesday as it stands right now. This is a developing situation, but the forecast cone is starting to narrow with a potential passage between very near or through the Mariana Islands. It's important to note that the forecast variability continues and later forecasts will likely change. What is important to note, according to National Weather Service, is the trends in the data over the last 24 to 36 hours. There have been an upward trend in projected strength, indicating potentially higher sustained winds have been observed. That said, it's still too early to specify what wind speeds will it be as it passes through the region. What is of more certainty is heavy rainfall and higher seas will accompany this feature. Current estimates are for 6 to 10 inches of rain will fall between Monday afternoon and Wednesday afternoon, with locally higher amounts near 12 inches possible. Seas will also build into the 14 to 18 foot range, possibly higher. And so what are the takeaways right now? The takeaways right now are that there will be a lot of rainfall and heavy winds next week. This is according to National Weather Service with a high degree of certainty. We do not know whether this system is going to develop into something really bad, or if this system, even if it does develop into something really bad, will directly hit Guam, Rota, Tinian, or Saipan. It's still too early to tell. We'll have more information here as the days go by, as the afternoons and the evenings go by, and the forecasts, or as basically the system gets closer to the Marianas region, there will be a greater degree of certainty, which is why it's important to pay attention to what National Weather Service is saying, and we here at Candid, of course, will bring you that information as quickly as possible, as we always do through the storms that come our way. What can we do with the weekend? Always, look at things with as the blessings that they are, that it is the weekend. And for many people, it is an opportunity. You're not working, and it is an opportunity to clean up your yards, take any loose debris out, do the things that we've been neglecting to do ever since Malwar left us. Now, what the governor's office is asking for us to do is if you've left any of that debris on your curbside waiting for the Army Corps of Engineers to pick it up, it might be a good time to do something about that, because you don't want that stuff flying into your house or to anybody else's house, or worse, to hit and injure somebody, especially a child, during this storm. Are we getting?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
Yes, and also
We're just waiting for Jenna Blas to call us into the Emergency Operations Center. We're Landon Idlet, the Chief Meteorologist for National Weather Service, will be giving us the latest with Tropical Depression 15W. And so we'll take it to commercials right now, because I can't just keep talking about nonsense. I don't want to be as efficient as possible here. So we'll take you to a commercial break right now, and hopefully by the time we're out, we'll be in the Emergency Operations Center. Please stick with us. Thank you. All right, so Jenna Blas has called us into the Emergency Operations Center. We're going to take our cans of corned beef that Mayor Robert Hoffman gave to Eric and I. He said it's from the Philippines and it's like the best corned beef ever. We're gonna test this out during this typhoon season, and we're gonna walk on over to the Emergency Operations Center now. Let's go. Hey Ed, nice to see you.
Will you standing for the camera? Because we can set up either inside or in the back in post.
Well, I think we need the microphone to be in, so in the front, right?
It's always good to see you, and I know the adage, well, since we're here, we may as well dance. Right? But I think dancing is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna be dancing quicker because we got this thing coming again. And but I think this time we're well prepared. And I just want to thank you for carving out some time on a Saturday to be here for something very, very important. I'm looking around the room and I see some fellow cabinet members in here, and I can't tell you how important that is. It's critical for cabinet members or your directors to be in here, sitting next to or near you, near to the mighty racks, because the racks carry the biggest load here. So with that, welcome again to your home, Guam Homeland Security and Office of Civil Defense. And I'm going to turn this over to our good friend Landon. And I'm sure all of you will agree, every time we see him, we don't know if we're happy or sad. But nonetheless, I present Landon to you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, of course, that is the.
Thank you so much, Esther, for the warm welcome. And yeah, as Esther mentioned, it's like family in here, so it's like a reunion of sorts. We were last together, I guess it was about 5 months ago, under some pretty dire situations. We're going to go into the details on what is now Tropical Depression 15W. This one's an interesting one because it is coming out of Micronesia, and as we all know, things that come out of Chuuk and Pohnpei states usually don't turn out too well for us. There's a little bit of good and bad, but we're going to talk about that in detail. And again, this is Tropical Depression 15W. Go on to the next slide. That was upgraded from the Invest 98W the last couple of days that we've been watching in Pohnpei State. That has finally been upgraded to what is now Tropical Depression 15W. That 15W means it is the 15th tropical cyclone of 2023. And by the way, we do have CNMI online, so if you have any questions, feel free to type those into the window and we'll get to those after the media has exited. But this is our Weather Service graphic as of 1 o'clock this afternoon. It was upgraded to Tropical Depression 15W at 1 o'clock, so I'm missing a couple of graphics since this was late breaking information. But this pink area, that is the forecast path for our depression. So Guam, Rota, Tinian, and Saipan, that is all in the crosshairs of this developing tropical cyclone. So we're going to go into those details. Where is it going? Its intensification. Currently, there are no tropical cyclone watches or warnings in the Guam area at this time. So no watches or warnings have been issued at this time. Go on to the next slide. As of 1 o'clock, 15W continues to organize. It's going through steady intensification, and that will continue over the next 48 to 72 hours. So as 15W is approaching the Mariana Islands, it will be intensifying. It could become a tropical storm Sunday morning, and it could become a typhoon sometime on Monday based off of current forecast trends. At 1 o'clock, it was centered about 685 miles east-southeast of Guam and about 675 miles east-southeast of Saipan. That was located right about 10 degrees north, 154 degrees east, moving rather quickly at 13 miles per hour to the west-northwest. On Lake Mawar, which was at a crawl of around 4 to 5 miles per hour, this was moving pretty quickly at 13 miles per hour. Maximum sustained winds are right about 30 miles per hour with wind gusts up to 40. These numbers will be increasing over the next 2 to 3 days. So watch out for that. Next slide. This is the Joint Typhoon Warning Center graphic showing the first warning from JTWC on this forecast track. This is showing a rota channel passage of what may become Typhoon 15W by Tuesday. So again, this forecast model right now as of 1 o'clock this afternoon shows a rota channel passage of what could become a typhoon in the coming days. This is going to be a close one. I was speaking to JTWC and they said some of the forecast models favoring a passage closer to Tinian and Saipan. Some ensemble models also favor a passage just east and offshore of Saipan. But the American and the European model that we watch most closely favor a passage closer to Guam. This will all come into refinement in the coming days. So this forecast that we're looking at right now, this will shift every 6 hours when the next available forecast comes out. So every 6 hours, we'll be seeing these wobbles. Will it come closer to Guam? Will it be a direct hit? Or will it go deeper into the CNMI and closer to Tinian and Saipan? These are the things we're watching very closely because all of the Mariana Islands are in the crosshairs of potentially a direct hit. Next slide, please. This is the Weather Service graphic showing that depression at 1 o'clock this afternoon becoming a tropical storm in the coming days, and then ultimately a typhoon on its approach on Tuesday to Guam. In the next slide, we're going to go to some of the probabilistic imagery showing those wind distributions. Go on to the next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. This is the wind distribution graphic for probabilities of tropical storm force winds. Right now, Guam is in the crosshairs of the highest probabilities. We are in the 60 to 70% range of seeing tropical storm force winds over Guam. That also extends to Rota and then to a lesser extent Tinian and Saipan. This is underscoring the importance that possibly all of us may be seeing tropical storm force winds on Tuesday and into Wednesday. The next slide shows those typhoon force winds. We're right now in the 10 to 30 percentile range of seeing typhoon force winds across Guam and Rota. And so with this current track favoring a Rota channel passage, does that mean Tinian and Saipan are out of the woods? Absolutely not. Because this whole track could shift northward. It could also shift southward. So we're going to be watching this. We're still in the realm of a lot of uncertainties, and we'll talk about that shortly. The next slide showing that earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds. Based on the 1 o'clock forecast issue, we're looking at the earliest possible time, Monday night. This is when 5% of the forecast models are saying these winds are present. That would be Monday night. But the most likely arrival time for tropical storm force winds is on the next slide, and that is around Tuesday morning. So we're looking at the onset of tropical storm force winds sometime Tuesday morning, possibly 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. Next slide. So this is where we are in the forecast process. We've had a lot of uncertainty for the last couple of weeks. We've seen a lot of activity in the long-range forecast models. We've seen spin-ups on Windy and other weather apps. People are circulating these disturbances passing through the islands. We're finally seeing things come together with this 15W. Right now we're about 3 days out, so we have the increasing confidence in a potential weather event. We're now getting pretty dang confident. So we're not quite yet there, but as we march forward over the next 24 to 48 hours, our confidence will be increasing. Right now we are pretty confident that somebody in the Mariana Islands will be feeling a typhoon force tropical cyclone. Will that be Guam? Will it be Rota? Will it be Tinian and Saipan? We're all in those crosshairs. Next slide, please. So the known and unknown variables. 98W is now a tropical depression. It's expected to continue developing in the coming days, And we have about 72 hours before it passes through the islands. That's 72 hours that this depression can intensify. 15W will continue toward the Mariana Islands, and any one or several islands may take a near miss or a direct hit on Tuesday and Wednesday. And so all of the islands should watch the forecast trends closely, as these things will shift, but the likelihood of a tropical storm or a typhoon passing somewhere in the lower Mariana Islands is increasing. The unknown variables. Will the forward motion increase or decrease? Right now it's moving west-northwestward at 13 miles per hour, but the forecast trend shows a decrease in forward motion in the next 24 hours, but then gradually picking up again. Mawar was crawling through our region back in May, and that was having impacts on the winds and the rainfall that we endured here on Guam. This one looks like it's going to be passing a little bit faster, so that's the good news. What is the rate of intensification now and through the next couple days? Rapid intensification is our biggest fear. That's what Mawar was doing. We don't see those indications of rapid intensification at this time, but that could happen 24 or 48 hours from now as it's approaching or pushing through the islands. Will this be another Mawar? Right now, we don't expect this to be another Mawar. We expect it to be a lesser tropical cyclone, but there is that possibility if rapid intensification occurs. And again, its passage, it could be still south of Guam, it could be a direct hit to Guam, or it could be up closer to Saipan and Tinian. These are all the uncertainties and the questions we'll be working to answer in the next 24 to 48 hours. But we're confident we're going to be filling it across the region. Go on to the next slide. So at this time, there are no tropical storm or typhoon watches or warnings in effect for Guam or the CNMI. Our timing, we're looking at those winds starting to build in Monday night, but those tropical storm force winds reaching Guam and the lower CNMI around Tuesday morning. That's 39 miles per hour winds Tuesday morning. The potential for tropical storm to typhoon impacts, high possibility that every one of us across Guam and the CNMI will be feeling those tropical storm force winds. There's also increasing likelihood somebody would be feeling typhoon force winds. The sea conditions will be gradually increasing more so on Monday and then rapidly through Monday night and Tuesday morning, becoming hazardous and dangerous, topping 15-foot combined seas. And then after passage, we expect the monsoon to come surging in from the southwest and the west. So for any vessels out there, military vessels that may be leaving harbor, we're going to probably see a pretty good monsoon surge on the backside of the system coming from Palau, Yap, and up through the Mariana Islands. And the next slide, little wiggles matter. Time is still on our side. Now we still have a good 3 days ahead of us to plan, prepare, and take action. We are experts in preparedness now because of Mawar. So things that worked well, do it again. Things that did not work well, make those changes now. A shift in forward motion may still happen. That's likely to happen. It could slow down. It could speed up. We have a good amount of time before this really passes through the islands, but also the rapid intensification concern, that is there. We're uncertain if it will happen or when it will happen, but there's always that possibility. And so the concern is, if we're looking at a Category 1 typhoon pushing through the islands, plan for the next category and severity, because rapid intensification can and does happen. Keep that in mind. The next slide, please. Currently, no watches or warnings. And again, the tropical cyclone watches are issued when those 34 knot or 39 mile per hour winds are possible within 48 hours. We're still outside of that time frame at this time. The warnings are issued when those winds are expected within 24 hours. And that's all based on the onset of tropical storm force 39 mile per hour winds. And the next slide, just some terminology on tropical cyclones. So when people are confused, if you hear us say tropical cyclones, that's a term that includes tropical depressions, tropical storms, typhoons, and super typhoons. So when I say that we're going to have a tropical cyclone passing through the Mariana Islands on Tuesday, We were looking possibly at tropical depression or tropical storm. Now we're looking at a tropical storm to typhoon force conditions for most of us in the region. Now it's a matter of where those strongest winds will fall. And so, at the least, everyone in Guam and the CNMI should plan for one of those tent, canopy, and tarp systems. Secure them, or better yet, pull them all in. But likely, those winds will be exceeding a tent, canopy, tarp system.
Halloween stuff.
Halloween stuff. If you have decorations, spiders, webs, zombies out on the street, make sure you pull those in, because Halloween's around the corner, and I know there's decorations out there. Secure those decorations or pull them in. If you have Christmas decorations, pull those in as well. Make sure they're secured. And the next slide, finally, we will be going on Facebook Live from my office at the National Weather Service. It's 5 p.m. this evening, so join us as we have the latest from the forecasters on staff. We'll talk about forecast trends and expectations for Guam and the CNMI. And you can also ask questions on the chat. We'll have Homeland Security folks joining us, as well as from CNMI, to answer questions related to the CNMI as well. So join us on Facebook Live at U.S. National Weather Service Guam at 5 o'clock p.m. as we discuss the latest. The next advisory coming from Weather Service Guam, we issue those every 6 hours at this time. The next advisory will be at the 7 o'clock hour. And I will take questions once the media has left.
Facebook right now, so everybody's very
still on
familiar
island,
with
and
the
thank
Veronica and
goodness she's still on island. That
Veronica,
many of
what
the,
are you anticipating right
bunch
now
of the
for
apparatus that we
Jaguars
have from Typhoon Walmart still is here.
talking with
So that's a good thing in terms of preparedness. The biggest takeaway that we got from that heavy weather briefing is that we need to plan for a typhoon. Is that they are pretty dang confident that a weather system, that a tropical cyclone that's going to have tropical storm force winds and rains affecting the 4 islands of the Mariana Islands. We're all going to get something, Landon Idlet is saying. Exactly what we're going to get depends on how close the center of that storm is to which one of our islands. Rapid intensification, the possibility of it within the 24 hours preceding the storm, and just all these uncertainties that exist. We're still 72 hours out, but Landon Idlet says plan for a typhoon. He says he calls it the tent, canopy, and tarp situation. Absolutely, he says. Bring in the tents, canopies, and tarps. Jenna, are you able to go on with us? Yeah, this is Jenna Blas, the Public Affairs Officer with the Office of Civil Defense, Guam Homeland Security. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm so sorry you have to go through this again.
All of us, I feel like collectively, we're all going through this together. We're all going through this again.
But you guys get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
God bless you. So, all right. How prepared is the emergency how prepared are the response activity coordinators for this event?
There were definitely a lot of lessons learned just from most previous Typhoon Mawar. You can see a lot of activity that's already happening. We're moving along with our response coordination and plans, along with these heavy weather briefs for all of our village leaders, as well as our response activity coordinators. All of the different agencies are ramping up with their response activity coordination. We have, the governor attended as well with the Mayor's Council of Guam. I didn't know that there are some actions that are being taken from the government of Guam side. We already have our federal counterparts on island and additional that are coming along the way.
So the mayors were just here.
Yes.
They received their briefing right before this
Yes.
public briefing. Did they give any indication about their level of preparedness and the resources they're asking for?
There are already some resource requests that are coming through our Emergency Operations Center. They have been routing those requests directly through our office. Some of them have included sandbags or even pre-staging heavy equipment. Fortunately, Department of Public Works did confirm that they have already pre-staged some of their equipment.
Okay.
So they're working closely with their personnel to make sure that there's a person that can operate.
And this is an increased level of preparedness from Malwar, right? This repositioning of I'm going to guess the backhoes, the things to get stuff off of the road, right?
These action items were taken even during Mawar.
Okay.
Some of these, it's part of our standard response plans.
Okay.
But you can definitely see a lot of people are still coming off the heels of Typhoon Mawar. So all of us have that, that fire underneath us to make sure that we're checking all of the things off of the list.
We were a little rusty for Malwar, but that
been a
got
while.
us. That got us
It
going.
was a
It was
while
20
before
years,
then.
right? And so, okay, one of the things that I remember, typhoons back in the day, is that the confusion that is caused when the military upgrades its level of preparedness before the government of Guam does. And can you explain to us why there's a difference between a condition of readiness in the military and a condition of readiness in the government of Guam?
Absolutely. So for the government of Guam side, Condition of Readiness Corps, we'll call it, is used as a messaging tool. It's based off of the onset of damaging winds and when we can expect those by. For the military, our counterparts, their tropical cyclone condition of readiness is off of a different threshold. So they're
Because
looking
they
at
have
destructive.
submarines and planes
All
and all
kinds,
that.
all kinds.
That we don't have out here in the
Right, but they're also looking at destructive winds as opposed to damaging winds. We're looking at damaging winds of 39 miles per hour or more, most especially because of those that live in substandard housing and the need to move to shelters if they need to. That might not be the case on a military basis. They have some hardened structures on there. Fortunately, I know that there's a very close partnership with our military counterparts in the government of Guam, where we're able to align those. But I know that there can be some differences. We try to explain it as much as possible. We work closely with our military partners for those.
So, okay, now one of the biggest things, one of the biggest problems from Malwar was the cutoff of communication between the government and the public. What's going to be different this time? Or should we expect that could happen again?
We're hoping not, but we're definitely preparing for the worst. Right after Typhoon Mawar, there were already meetings in place with our telecommunication partners, as well as our media broadcasters. So we've been forging those partnerships and making sure to check in with them to see what their capabilities are, making sure we know what they're lacking, if there's anything that we can do to assist. But we're making sure that our communication lines are open so that way we know right away if there are any issues.
So the radio stations are we more prepared with the radio stations being able to stay online? And is K-Stereo still the go-to station for getting the news?
They're definitely our primary for emergency alerts. They're our emergency alert system broadcast partners for emergency response. But we look forward to partnering with all of the different media broadcasters. Of course, we share that information across the board. If they're operational, we hope that they're able to broadcast. So we've been doing those check-ins with our counterparts to make sure, let us know if you feel like you're going down or you have an issue with your station, let us know, and that way we can share that information.
And so there is a networking that's going on right now.
Absolutely, yes.
To, as much as possible, keep the radio stations open during a storm.
Since Typhoon Mawar, up until now, and most recently.
What about generators for the radio stations, for their, I guess they're called cell sites or something?
Requests can always be made, but there haven't been any that's been dispatched yet. Of course, we try to outsource with Government of Guam capabilities, and if there's an availability to assist with private counterparts. But we always include our federal partnerships to see what type of avenues there are, but there haven't been any requests at this time.
How about the cellular companies, GTA, Docomo, IT&E? Is there a networking going on right now with them, and what's their level of preparedness?
We do, unfortunately I won't be able to speak on their level of preparedness, but we do have an emergency support function, a communications person who works within our emergency operations center, who have those direct links with the private telecom companies. So I won't be able to speak on their behalf, but I know that their coordination is also underway.
Okay, and so we heard Landon Idlet talk about basically it's, at this point, prepare for a typhoon.
Right.
Not that a typhoon's coming,
Right.
but prepare for a typhoon. So what is the level of preparedness right now with your response activity coordinators, and when is this going to turn into an emergency operations center and joint information center?
So we won't really know an exact time frame for when we're going to activate. Of course, the governor, the lieutenant governor, the Homeland Security Advisor, and the Civil Defense Administrator have the authority to activate the Emergency Operations Center and Joint Information Center. At this time, we are doing some joint messaging already with the Office of the Governor as well as with FEMA. But at this time, there's no timeline yet on when we can anticipate activation. But the personnel that work in there have been advised to be on standby in the event there is a need to activate. So we're standing by, even the public information officers.
But resources already are moving.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
All right. Anything more, Jenna, that you want?
Just a little bit about preparedness. Besides the standard preparedness messaging that we push out, having an emergency kit, making sure you put up shutters, securing items, but check in with your family members, elderly, persons with disabilities, or even if you know if your neighbor doesn't have internet, include them as part of your family communication plan. Start including them. That way you can get information out and help share that information even further. So just making sure you're rounding your bases, making sure you're checking with your family and even your neighbors.
Well, KOM I think wants to as well, and so but I have a request.
Sure.
May we get some sort of graphic that has the phone numbers for all of the mayors and their offices so that we can share that with the public?
Okay, yeah, we'll check in with the Mayor's Council of Guam to see if that can be made available. I know they have a listing available on their website, but we'll see what we can do to get that out to the public at wide.
Thank you so much.
Yes, of
Thank
course.
you
Thank
so
you,
much, Jenna.
Troy.
I think KOM wants you now. And we have Veronica Verdi. We're going to switch off here. Veronica Verdi with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Hi, my friend.
Hey, how are you, Troy? How are you? Good to see you.
You never left, huh?
I know. You know what? I was supposed to leave next week.
Oh.
Next week was supposed to be my week to leave to go home. But, you know, we still have, Troy, 200 people here just still looking at the recovery from Typhoon Manwar. We are also deploying an additional nearly 200 people coming here to Guam and the Commonwealth of Northern Marianas. So we don't know quite where the storm's going to hit, but we're taking preparation now, looking to see, you know, what needs to happen, coordinating with local government and finding out what may be some of the resource needs.
I'm so with you that I had with Jenna, and the first thing I want to ask about is whether FEMA has anything to do with helping us here on Guam and in the CNMI make sure that our hospitals are working during and after a storm. Do you guys have anything to do with that?
You know what, we do deploy Health and Human Services. So during Typhoon Manwar, when there was a need for the hospitals, we did deploy nurses and doctors to both of the hospitals. Just they were inundated, so we also brought in supplies. As a matter of fact, the plane that I came in into Anderson with the regional administrator had, I'm trying to remember, was like maybe 20 cases of blood. I mean, it was, you know, we needed to make sure just in case we didn't know what the casualties may have been after Manwar. So this was like right after Manwar, we were flying here. And so we bring in a lot of resources with us on planes just to make sure if there's casualties or if there's need for other supplies, we do help to support the hospitals through our Health and Human Service partners.
What about the physical plant? I don't know that they have an issue with the CHCC over the CNMI, but I know we have issues with the physical plant at GMH here on Guam. Anything that you guys are doing to assist with that?
Yeah, you know, well, for right now, I don't have any I don't have any details on that, but I will say that we are deploying Health and Human Services. They are coming with us. They're deploying here to Guam and also to the Commonwealth of Northern Marianas. So we're hopeful that if there is any need, we'll have some technical expertise with us.
Is there an assessment, a current assessment of the number of people who are still displaced from their homes, who are very likely going to need to seek shelter? So we have the Tier 1 shelters that the government of Guam will provide, right? But following that, is there some sort of assessment about the level of need?
Yeah, Troy, at this point we don't know. I really would have to lean on Guam Homeland Security or even the mayors because they might have that information. Because even if people weren't affected by Manwar, you know, they could live in low-lying areas where they tends to flood. And so we want to make sure that people take preparation now, seek shelter, or try to find out if a family and friend ahead of time can maybe take you and your family in while we ride out the storm.
Thank you. And I know you've talked about this before, but just as a reminder, in case anyone got rusty since Manwar, and also for our friends and families in the CNMI, what tips do you have, or what information do you want to share if a storm does come and to any one of our islands and damages our homes? What should people do after the storm leaves?
Yeah, I mean, Troy, so great questions. I would really like to tell people what they should do before. Like, already start to look at what kind of insurance they have, you know, what will be covered. You know, start looking at preparations. You know, a lot of people are looking at, weatherproofing their home right now, looking at sandbagging, we've heard that, but also, looking at what happens afterwards. So afterwards, we want people to know, do they contact their insurance? What kind of need are they going to have directly after that? So making sure that they take photos of their damages, when if there is a federal declaration for individual assistance, then that's way down the line. Then you will hear from it through great, media networks like yourself. But, we want people to make sure they're prepared now, that after the storm, if they have damages, take as many photos as you can, dispose of anything that could tend to be moldy, especially anything that's wet. People tend to hold on to it because they're waiting for their FEMA inspector or even their insurance adjuster. Take photos, take videos, and discard of it and start cleaning up.
Do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I just want people to know, take action now. Please listen to local government through great news stations like yourself. People need to start making, the preparations. Look at your emergency kit. Look and tailor it for your own family. So if you have pets, think about pets. If you have older Americans, think about, your older Americans. They may need medication. They may need a little bit more help. And we have seen that older Americans, tend to get more sick, chronically sick after a disaster. So we want to make sure that we take care of our older Americans, our aunties and uncles. And
Thank you so much for reminding me about that. I asked Jenna if we could have a list of the mayors. I think we got to make a list of the dialysis centers and their phone numbers so that we can put that out so people can start making their phone calls.
Yes. I mean, any kind of coordination, beforehand is great. I know the mayors are really, tied into, their community, and if we could help, the community and spread the word to get prepared now is the time.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you,
Veronica
Troy.
Verdi
Thank
from
you.
the Federal Emergency Management Agency.
Thank you, Troy.
Thank you for always helping us over
Thank
the years.
you. Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you too, Troy. Thank you.
Hi.
And thanks to your viewers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Troy.
So that was Veronica Verdi with FEMA. We heard from Jenna Blas with Guam Homeland Security Office of Civil Defense. And let me just give you the rundown from, in case you're just joining us, we had the heavy weather briefing with the Office of Civil Defense. And Landon Idlet, Chief Meteorologist for the National Weather Service, who gave the briefing, said that we are expecting tropical storm force winds or rains somewhere in the Mariana Islands. All right, still kind of early to tell where this thing is going to go exactly, although that there are some probabilities, and those probabilities right now are showing a passage somewhere around the Rota Channel. And if you don't know where that is, the Rota Channel is the area between Guam and Rota. But because of how small our area of the Mariana Islands is and how big storms can be, we can expect to see tropical storm force winds throughout the Mariana Islands when this thing passes sometime between Tuesday and Wednesday. But what we're looking at for right now, and of course things can change, is that tropical storm force winds, the onset of them, will come sometime Sunday night, but more than likely it will come Monday morning, early Monday morning or something like that. On the relied upon models, the NWS is looking at a Rota Channel passage for now. All four islands of the Mariana Islands, all four major islands of the Mariana Islands are in the crosshairs for a direct hit. Guam is in the crosshairs as a higher probability of receiving tropical storm force winds. We're still in the realm of uncertainties, Landon Idlet said. Earliest possible time, I already said that, Monday night or Tuesday morning. I was wrong earlier about Sunday night or Monday morning. It was Monday night or Tuesday morning. They are pretty dang confident, 3 days out from this thing, that somebody in the Mariana Islands will be receiving at least a tropical storm. Expect this to keep developing and keep intensifying, Landon Idlet says. They are not seeing any rapid intensification now, but that can change. And rapid intensification can happen within 24 hours of the onset of this or of the passage of a storm, and that still can happen. And so to the question, will this be another Malwar? The answer is it could be. But the most important thing for people to take away right now is that we need to prepare for a typhoon hitting Guam, Rota, Tinian, or Saipan, and we need to prepare for the entirety of the Mariana Islands to receive some sort of heavy weather next week. For Candid News, I'm Troy Torres. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Where we will carry National Weather Service's Guam office's briefing live. Again, 5 p.m. Please join us.